tell me about the documentary.
So the documentary is just looking at the different attitudes towards abortion sort of all over the UK.
Will you be looking at both sides?
Currently I am immersing myself within the anti-abortion movement, but given that it is a BBC documentary, of course we are going to be looking at both sides, at both experiences. Yeah, both sides. Abortion is a very highly divisive issue, so yes, we will be looking at both sides.
So you speak to like pro-abortion groups as well?
Not at the moment, no. We sort of only really started filming maybe like a few weeks ago, so we're kind of very early on, but we plan to, yeah.
What are you hoping to kind of achieve to show the public?
I don't actually know yet, if in all honesty, we don't know. I think it's important for me to understand why people think a certain way, whether it's being pro-choice or anti-abortion. And I think coming at it with as open a mind as possible and really trying to understand why people think that the way they do is kind of the main aim of this documentary.
That's wonderful. And I guess, yeah, when you talk about kind of pro-choice,
yeah,
what is that choice?
I suppose like a lot of people in this country, I think, was it 89-90% of people in this country are pro-choice. I guess it's the most base level, the choice of a woman to make a decision about her own body is kind of my understanding of it. So yeah.
But I'm just going to ask you, what is that choice? What happens during that choice? Is she talking about a choice to get her hair done, a choice to get married, a choice to, what happens in this so-called choice?
It's a choice about what she is doing with her own body.
But what is it specifically that she's doing with her own body in the abortion?
Well, she's deciding to go ahead with an abortion.
Yeah. How would you describe what abortion?
I don't know. That's why I'm hanging out with you guys. Everyone has a very different language. I've noticed is very, very important and key in both factions. So I guess for me, it's too early for me to make some sort of conclusion, and I don't want to fall into any kind of trap where I say something and I'm not quite sure. So for me, and because I'm quite early on in my journey, it's important for me to understand language and understand how it's used and what people think. Because, certainly hanging out with James, he uses words that would be very different to the language a pro-choice person uses. So for me, it's just like absorbing and learning and understanding as much as I can.
Would you say that the media is typically one-sided when it comes to this issue, mainstream media?
I can't really comment on that. I don't really know. I don't. But before this documentary, really, it wasn't like I was just watching documentaries about abortion, so I couldn't really give you an answer on that.
I would say, obviously the abortion comes up in the media, whether it comes to politics or, I don't know, protests.
But I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, how is immigration how does any mainstream outlet portray any divisive issue, right? I can't really give an answer on that. I honestly don't know. I don't actively, it's not like I'm actively consuming lots of documentaries or news.
Just generally, when you scroll through the news and you see like the top 10 stories, and there might be an abortion one.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. Like, I couldn't. But that's why I'm sort of hanging out with all these these different. I'm hanging out within people. Sorry, I'm hanging out with people within the movement to see what their views are. Like, how do they think that they're being portrayed? Like, how do you think you're being portrayed?
Oh, in the media?
Yeah, how do you guys, your organisation, how do you think you're being portrayed in the media?
Typically, it depends, but typically mainstream media tends to be very biased towards abortion, right, okay. So very supporting abortion, typically. Although recently things, for example, actually things have got a little bit better in terms, we had an article printed in the Times like about 10 years ago on us, and they kind of almost, the language they used almost kind of compared us to like a disease. Right. Like, this is kind of like spreading and like that type of language. Right. Whereas 10 years later, they've now kind of changed the language and been a little bit more honest.
Yeah, language is hugely important. What's the article? How recent was this article?
When was it? the first one was 10 years ago. The recent one was just after Roe v. Wade. So there was a lot of interest during Roe v. Wade, because there has been interest.
Yeah.
People have seen that there is a growing movement of pro-life.
Do you think the movement is rising?
100%. I mean, in the last 10 years, we've gone from one team to
within CBR.
Yeah,
wow.
to like 12.
Really?
Yeah, so we've grown massively, like 12 cities around the country.
Wow. How many members do you guys have?
What, volunteers?
Educators? Volunteers, yeah.
Probably. Oh, I'm the wrong person to ask in that aspect. It's in the hundreds.
Wow. So
Yeah,
this is the
yeah.
thing, because when we were doing our research, and like there is no neat statistic that says,
Yeah.
it's growing by X percent. Certainly
Okay.
from everyone we've been speaking to, anecdotally.
Yeah.
And even the evidence they give us, they're like,
Yeah.
yes, it's growing.
Yeah. I mean, I can send you the stats if you're interested.
Please,
Yeah.
I'll email you. That would be
That was
really
exactly
helpful.
what that Times journalist was
But
interested
is
in.
it growing amongst young people? So like under 30s?
I mean, our teams are very mixed. Our teams are quite mixed in terms of young people. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a case of we're getting across the board. We're getting more people involved across the board.
And do you think like something like Roe v. Wade, the overturning of Roe v. Wade has like emboldened organisations like CBR UK to do the activism, to do the educational display? Is that kind of giving you guys some confidence? Like
it's. I think it's made it more of an issue in the media, and so now people are talking about it more. People are now thinking about, where do I stand? Coming across the images, they're finding out.
Social media
So
as
on
well.
our side, they're finding out. Wow, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the right to kill a child, and that's something that I should care about.
It would be amazing if you do have any stats. It's been when we've been doing the research. You kind of want a neat stat to kind of tie everything up together. But certainly from all the different people that we've been talking to within the movement, they're like, it's absolutely growing. It's growing on social media. It's growing on TikTok. It's growing in the way people engage with me. We've gone from say 10 members a year ago to now 200 members. So clearly there is something.